Well, Jesus taught us in his model prayer to pray to God, forgive us the wrongs we've done. Matthew 6. Simple enough, right? Except for the strong barrier I have, and you do too, between myself and the word wrong. I want to continue to explore how forgiveness can break down that barrier between God and me and between others and me and bring healing into my life. One fairly recent book can show me what I'm up against. Social psychologists Elliot Aronson and Carol Tavris have written a title, Mistakes Were Made, but Not by Me. Now, what politician was it that made that statement, mistakes were made? Search that phrase online, and you'll see that quite a few have used it. It just sounds very human, doesn't it? The book goes back to the work of Leon Festinger 60 years earlier, titled When Prophecy Fails. It was some of the first work on the science of cognitive dissonance, how we try to reconcile mentally our conflicting or contradictory experience in a way that maintains a positive view of ourselves. We conclude that we are right, after all. The central case in Festinger's work involved a woman in Chicago who practiced automatic writing and was a spirit medium, and who concluded from her revelations that the world was going to end, and a spacecraft would be picking up believers and whisking them to safety to the planet Clarion. Yeah, Clarion. At midnight, December 20, 1954. An earnest group that called themselves the Seekers, and a researcher actually infiltrated that group. Well, the group gathered at her home and waited and wondered until at 4:45 a.m. on December 21, the woman had a new revelation. The revelation was this: God had spared the world because of this little group's faith. And she said to those gathered, "Not since the beginning of time upon this earth has there been such a force of good and light as now floods this room." The new vision showed that she had not been wrong at all. It's that God was very much right. The book, Mistakes Were Made, reviews how it's still powerfully true today. When I am wrong, I will go through all manner of contortions in my head to show that actually I am right. This is a basic mental bias we all display at one time or another. And it's also a barrier to grace and forgiveness. There's an essential journey I need to take regularly to break down that barrier. We can call it simply the journey from right to wrong and back again. It means reversing my strong bias to be right and admitting specifically what I've done wrong so that I can truly be all right with God and with others. Step 5 in Celebrate Recovery says, we admit to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. And in Recovery Principle 4, I openly examine and confess my faults to myself, to God, and to someone I trust. Now, maybe that sounds like an airborne journey leaping across the Grand Canyon, given my strong built-in bias to be right, right, right. But as with many important journeys, this one too can begin with a small step. I can stop myself from justifying what I've done, which I'll do automatically, and allow myself simply to look deeply into the other person's experience and consider how what I've done may have caused pain. Sometimes I might need somebody's assistance in order to do this. Let me give you a personal example. Years ago, while I was taking seminary studies, I worked part-time at the university radio station. My best friend also worked there. I used some really bad judgment on the air one night. I cringe now to think how bad it was. And the station manager was not pleased. As I talked about the incident with my friend Gary, I completely justified what I'd done. But he helped me to see the journey I was going to need to take. And it would mean admitting the exact nature of my wrongs and seeking the grace of the station manager. As it turned out, he was gracious and forgiving, but I did need to take that journey into wrong, my wrong, in order to be right again. And Gary helped me take that journey. I was able to see the manager's position and recognize that he himself had a board to answer to and that I'd put him into a painfully difficult place. I didn't want to be wrong, but I needed to see the damage I had done to him. I needed to admit my wrong, and I did so in written detail, which helped me to break down that barrier within myself. I was able to be exact, specific, and open in order to put things right again. When I pray regularly, forgive me the wrongs I've done. It's a long way from the vague and self-justifying mistakes were made. Can you imagine saying that to God? But that prayer takes me on a transforming journey that can open the way to God and to you. From right to wrong and back again. And finding myself truly right in Him.